Biggest key to gaining velo. Who's going to start this off? You want me?
You.
I don't know how to throw hard.
Fuck you, man.
I'll start because it's probably we'll go from the most or least eloquent explanation to the most eloquent.
Okay, so Sim's going last.
Let's fucking go.
I'd say a majority of, in my experience, just from the aspect of it, generally it's increasing sequencing for your specific body type and the way that you move, like really understanding how you move and optimizing the movement patterns and the sequencing of that. So a lot of guys move differently, obviously, like different joints, different motions. Some guys have longer levers, some guys have shorter levers, so you can't say everything works all the same. It's not a universal thing, but the general sequencing of those kind of pieces, ultimately, if you optimize that, I'd say that's probably the highest output of velo that you could find, at least for me. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah, I'd agree on that. I think it's sequencing is important, and there's two types of, I break it down like movement patterns into two things. There's the stylistic portion of the delivery, and then there's the principle portion of the delivery. So there's certain principles that will always be the same for everybody because we're all humans, and no matter what kind of anatomical differences we have, and like you said, different lever sizes, heights, like whatever.
Yep.
There's certain things that you have to do to throw hard. You're going to have to rotate your pelvis. You're going to have to block your front leg and be very stable there. You're going to have some sort of scap retraction and loading and arm spiral stuff like that. There's certain things that are key principles, but how you go about doing that is different for everybody. You know, you can say that someone like Aroldis Chapman has really good mechanics, but you can also say that someone like Luis Castillo has really good mechanics, but they move drastically different. But they're doing the principles the same. It's just the style is different. So just to kind of piggyback on your movement thing, for me, it's the movement first.
Yep.
And get that right for you, do the principles correctly, and then we can get into the area these guys really excel, is like, how do you then stack performance on top of correct movement?
Right, and I think I'm all for it. I'm going to go a little more vague as well. For me, I do get a lot of these questions. Hey, how do I throw harder? Like all that stuff. For me, like learning that it's everything, not one thing, was a big thing for me.
Yep.
So before too, for me, it was like, oh, I need to fix this one thing and I'm going to gain. I'm going to do this one thing. No, it's literally everything. It's your strength, your power, your how much you can output, your ground force, your fucking, you know, like you're able to move, your positioning,
yep,
your mechanics, your everything that matters. For me, that's been a huge biggest difference for me because learning that was huge, and I learned that by me doing just a bunch of fucking taking L's, and I learned that because it's not one thing. Even me right now, like I'm strong, you know, but I mean I can do a lot of other things that can make me better, but I'm not just gonna not lift. Yeah. Because if I just stop lifting right now just because I'm strong, I'm not gonna gain the way I want to be. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You need to do everything. You need to get stronger. You need to get faster. Like that's why I'm sprinting and shit, even though I'm 260.
Yeah.
Because I need to whatever I can to move faster. I will find a way to do it.
Well, I think that blends direct. It goes directly into what we were talking about with sequencing, because I think the statement that it's not one thing, it's everything.
It's a great statement.
It's an extremely strong statement for anyone who doesn't think so.
It's very eloquent, so that's why we
exactly.
Appreciate it. Let's go, baby.
That's the biggest thing, where, you know, it's one of the reasons why the idea of like external cueing and training is such a big thing, because it's like, oh, if there's one certain fix you're trying to go to,
right,
like the end point is actually it's throwing hard, doing that kind of process,
right,
and then your body's able to reorganize itself to a capacity that, like, obviously there's certain things that we have to focus on to refine. But the overarching whole and building off of that and finding kind of deficiencies in that, and then trying to build efficiencies in kind of the areas that you don't operate as well, that's everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's not just one thing, it's everything. Even you, Trevor, you're already a successful big leaguer, but there are many areas that you can get better at.
Yeah.
Like I'm a YouTuber, you know, but I can throw pretty hard. I got up to 94 this year.
Yep.
There's so many things I can get better at. And I want to try to like throw like 97, 98, 99, who knows? Like I'm trying to get to the next level, right?
Yeah.
So when you're trying to push to the next level, you can't just work on one fucking thing and expect to be, oh, I'm throwing 90, I'm gonna be 94 just because I'm doing this for 3 months. No, you need to do everything. You need to take control of everything, your diet, whatever. You need to transform yourself into being able to do that. And I think that's the biggest thing. It also takes a lot of time too.
Yeah, it does take a lot of time and dedication. I think, Tim, you could probably speak to this concept better than any of us. That when you first start trying to throw harder, you're going to have some sort of beginner's gain type of thing, right?
Yeah.
So you've never lifted before, so you start lifting, you get this big gain, you're like, wow, this is the one thing that really works. But as time goes along, the benefit that you get from that gets less and less and less per month that you do it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like this point of diminishing returns. And then, but there might be another area like sleep or nutrition or mechanics or whatever that you can kind of see this big bump.
Yeah.
So when you're training athletes, because you see it from a different perspective than we see it, like we're in it, we're trying to do it and figure it out. You're the one kind of like overseeing the whole program and all of it for an athlete. Like, what do you see when guys really make their big velo jump? Is it like a light bulb moment where like, oh, this like clicked and I get it? Is it a consistent like, oh, we knew for 6 months that he was getting there because we saw these markers going up? Like, how do you know? How can you tell when a guy's gaining velo?
Yeah, I really like the kind of everything approach. You think about the umbrella of what it takes to pitch. You're looking at so many different facets. So you're looking at sleep. You're looking at, and therefore with sleep it translates to recovery, and then it translates to your performance that day. So if you go into a training session, whether it's a bullpen or it's a weightlifting session, conditioning, and your sleep only allows you to put in, let's just call it 70% because you slept like crap, the developmental pattern at that point is obviously going to hinder you from growth and velo and any I guess development you're looking for.
Yeah.
So I think about that. I think about other areas of the umbrella that we can look at. We can look at nutrition. We can look at how you're treating your body. So whether or not you're doing soft tissue work, whether or not you're stretching or even doing a proper cool down. We even hinted at our last live stream with Hess here about meditation being mindfulness, or with mindfulness. I think those all will piece in. I don't think there's ever really been one aha moment where we've had an athlete that, thinking about my old job back in Colorado, where we would get those freshmen, sophomores, get that 10-mile-per-hour increase on velo, and they're all celebrating it, and sure, it's great to throw low 80s, it's great to throw mid 80s, but what is it going to take to get that next step? So after that initial burst, usually we do not see one instance where it's like just plyometrics push that athlete to the 90-mile-per-hour range. It's everything. It's the umbrella. It was hex bar deadlift that they did for strength. It was the plyometrics. It was working with a pitching coach or someone that knew what they're doing to piece everything together. It was taking all the hard work that you were doing outside of baseball and learning how to apply that to the mound. So then once you took all that and you surrounded yourself with the attributes of being an athlete and being a pitcher, then you were able to translate to the mound working with someone that knew what they were doing. And I think maybe that was the kind of the deciding factor, was the ability to translate all the attributes into what it takes to throw hard.
Sure.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that's, again, we're kind of all coming back to the same point, that it's the totality of everything. It's the willingness to control those different aspects of your life. Your sleep, your nutrition. Those are two things that get overlooked a ton because they're not sexy. You go to sleep, you don't feel like you're getting any better, but no one knows the benefits of it. And you're like, I get up, I want to go train, but when I left for school this morning, I didn't bring my protein shake, I didn't bring a meal, or I didn't plan to stop before practice and get nutrition. So now I'm going into the session, like you said, at a decreased capacity, and then it's 2 hours after the session that I finally get to go eat, and like now I've lost a lot of those benefits. So it's those like little things that really do matter.
Ooh,
that's going to be a hit. What a play.
D. Play the D.
Wow. But it's all the little things, and that's the kids in high school, the young kids, the college kids that want like, oh, I'm a junior and I need to throw 10 miles an hour harder in 3 months to get drafted. It's like you're too late. You can still get there. You're not going to get there this year, but if you want to buy in now, like there's other routes to get in. You can sign as an undrafted free agent, whatever. It's not too late to get there eventually, but if you're looking to get drafted this year, it's too late. You needed to start.
And that's the thing with a lot of the youth. They want one thing. There's like, hey, what is the key? I get this so many.
The secret sauce.
Dude, what is the key to getting velo? I get a million DMs like this. and they just want an answer, like a quick way, hey, you do this and you're gonna get there. And how long have you been throwing baseball? You and I are obviously still throwing. You've been throwing baseball for how long?
28 years
28 years. I've been throwing my baseballs all my life.
Yeah.
And you and I are still trying to fucking figure out, and we know our bodies and a lot more than a lot of people, right? You've been throwing for how long? You've been successful. I've been throwing for how long? I was pretty successful. But I mean, we're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
This offseason, you have goals that you want to do. Like even me, like even though I'm a YouTuber, like I want to throw gas.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, I'm trying to figure it out. Like there's not one answer. There's not one thing I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna get it back to 95. No, I did Project 95 or Die last year, right? So I was throwing about 88, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do whatever it takes to throw 95. It took me 151 days, and I trained every single fucking day. Whether it is my eating, lifting, throwing, I threw almost every single day other than a couple deload weeks. Dude, the work I put in was ruthless. Yeah, and it took me 4.5 months. It didn't take. A lot of kids are like, oh, I want to throw, like you said, 10 miles an hour harder in a month. What the fuck do you think this is? That's that easy. I'll be throwing 100 right now. I'm in the fucking big leagues. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't work like that. There's not one fucking thing. There's just everything.
I would say it's possible there is one thing that would make you throw harder, and it's truly just caring more, and that's it. Because from a standpoint, you deal with a lot of people who, the people who do the empty work, where it's the mindless work, where I'm doing double days or like 2-a-day workouts, or I'm sitting there and doing 100 push-ups when I wake up, and like, oh, I do that extra work. Where the truth is, like, human nature is sometimes change is extremely difficult. So, like, diet needs to change. Your routine after working out or training needs to change. After games, pre-game, all these things need to change, and you just need to care more about that process, and then you'll start seeing the gains you actually want.
Even when you change, you can't guarantee shit.
Well,
all right, that's the only thing. Like a lot of kids, like, oh, is that gonna guarantee? No, like, dude, like, I try within 151 days. I try so many different things, man. Whether it's my mechanics, my lifting,
and just because you solve one thing, doesn't mean it's going to be solved forever. Then you fix, say you're focusing on lead leg block.
Right.
Then you're like, all right, I fixed that. Now all of a sudden I'm working on increasing scap traction. Then all of a sudden lead leg block goes back to where it was. It's like this is always this work in progress. But I would say overarchingly, like the best blanket statement I can say is just care more and be open to the aspects that you don't have. Like the hard things about change are probably the most valuable things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the foundation of anything athletically. If you're trying to grow velo, your speed, it's the mindset.
Yep.
It's really what you start with.
It's what drives
and then
you.
if you're willing to, if that mindset is present, then you're willing to care about your sleep. You're willing to care about nutrition. You're willing to dive into everything.
It's doing whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Doing whatever it takes. A lot of people say they fucking do, but they don't. You know, like,
that's the thing.
You gotta do whatever the fuck it takes to get to where you want to be, and there's no guarantee to it. You just do it until you fucking die, and hopefully you figure it out.
The problem is they always have these like, oh, trust the process. Like that becomes a statement that people find to be gimmicky. It's like, no, that's exactly what it is. You find something that you think you believe in that you're going to try out. You trust the process and you go through it. Then you become inquisitive again, try and find a new one, trust the process of that.
Yeah, I think that's a really big point. Is you have to become inquisitive again. You can't just develop a process and then trust that it's going to work, because if you have a bad process, it's not going to work.
Right.
So you have to develop a process, try it out, then evaluate, okay, am I getting to where I want to get to or not? What can I change? What can I improve? Develop a new process, try it out. But you have to care enough to do those different iterations of everything. And I think, intent is one thing we haven't really talked about, but just the intent to throw hard, that can be in the throw itself. I'm going to try to throw this as hard as I possibly can, so screw mechanics, screw command, let me just figure out how to throw hard. But it's also intent to throw hard everywhere else that we're talking about. Like just yesterday, and this is kind of a kind of related, kind of not. I slept a lot. I felt really good waking up. I came in the gym, I was shooting baskets, and I was making like drastically more shots than I've made prior. And I was like, wow, I must have slept really well last night. I got this amount of REM, I got this amount of deep, and we look at some of the numbers, and like when I sleep better, I command the ball better. That doesn't just apply to throwing the baseball, it applies to shooting a basket. Well, it turns out that when I sleep better, I throw a lot harder too, because yesterday I was sitting like 86, 87 off the mound without even really trying, when that same effort level I was like 83, 84 a couple sessions before. So the intent to throw hard can be at 10 o'clock at night when you're laying down to go to sleep. Like, I'm going to throw really hard tomorrow because I'm going to get 10 hours of sleep tonight. It can be when you're eating your lunch, like, I'm going to throw really hard because I'm going to get the proper nutrition so I can help my body recover so I can train more. Like, intent is key in everything. You have to
intent to do everything.
Yeah, you have
intent
to
to do
commit to
anything that you need to have intent.
And the thing is, it can be a daunting thing for people who, you know, subconsciously don't feel like they can try to achieve it.
Yeah.
Because like, I'm about to sacrifice all this time and all this effort rather than doing other things. But that's the whole point. It's like, if you're trying to achieve something great, you have to find out the proper ways to do it, and you have to have the intent and the care to actually go out and do the things that matter. And it's become clear that there's a lot of eye-washy stuff out there that looks really hard and looks like you care, but it doesn't necessarily achieve the results. So
Yeah.